And my name is Kevin Nolan. I'm one of the Canvas administrators for CSU, and I also do training and support for predominantly TAs and instructors, but certainly help any students who might happen to ask us a question. And I'm co-presenting this morning with Katie Little, and I'll let Katie introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Little, and I'm the Director of Instructional Technology for TILT, which is the Institute for Learning and Teaching here on campus.
And this morning's session is on how to build a course in Canvas. It's very much designed for folks who have really never done anything in Canvas before, or it's been a long time since they did something in Canvas. So it's definitely meant to start from the beginning. And we're going to do a number of things this morning. We're going to start off with a pedagogical approach that Katie's going to present to kind of get people in the right frame of mind as they're starting to put the course together in their head and on their paper or on their computer. And then we're going to start working our way through some of the exercises that I sent out to folks. So I'm going to turn it over to Katie right now.
Great, thanks. So as I mentioned, my team works for TILT, and primarily we're a group of instructional designers who provide professional development to faculty. We help them in designing and developing their online, hybrid, and residential instruction courses. And during this process, we obviously work really closely with Kevin's team at ACNS. So today, what I'm going to talk about are just a few pedagogical considerations for building a course. And one thing I'll say is, I primarily have spent most of my career in the online environment, but everything I'm going to talk about is really geared toward any of the modes of delivery for your course. So it can be applied to online, hybrid, and residential instruction. So first, let's talk a little bit about the big picture of course design. So this is sort of the 30,000-foot view of what to consider when you're developing a course. The ADDIE model is a really popular model that instructional designers use when they're developing online courses. And there are 5 phases in this model. And as you can see here, they are analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. So I'll just briefly go over each of these. But during the analysis phase, the instructional goals and objectives of your course are what you're going to establish. And you also want to consider the learner's existing knowledge and skills and make sure that you have those identified. So in other words, you're thinking about what you want your students to be able to do once they complete your content. Next is the design phase, and that primarily deals with creating your learning objectives, your assessments, and your content and media. So in this phase, you're thinking about how you want to present your material to your students. We then move into the development phase, and here's where you're sort of organizing and assembling your course content. Here at CSU, this means building your course in Canvas, and that's our learning management system, and we'll talk more about shortly. Then you're going to go ahead and implement your course. So you'll review your content, make sure everything's ready to go in Canvas, and then you're going to actually deliver or teach your course to your students. And then the last phase in the ADDIE model is evaluation. And this is where you're asking yourself, how did my course go? So during this phase, you're typically gathering student input and surveys. You're also going to want to examine your assessments and your grade results to see how your students did. And then you'll make revisions to your course based on what you learn for the next time you offer it. So now that we've talked a little bit about that, that kind of broad overview of course design, let's get down to kind of more of the nitty-gritty a little bit and how you're actually going to want to set up your course in Canvas. So what we're going to talk about are just some tips for course development here, and these are based on the 9 events of instruction. So our first tip is that you want to be able to gain your learner's attention when you present content. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this. You might show a short video or use an image to kind of pique student interest. You could provide a scenario or a problem statement or even a case study for your students to consider. And then you want to frame whatever element you've chosen to get their attention with a little bit of context so that the learners understand why they're watching this video, why you're having them look at this image, and why it's relevant to what you're going to be teaching them. So just a couple examples. I've worked on quite a few social work courses, and some of the faculty will take real world case studies and scrub out of any personal information, but they'll share that information. They'll share those case studies with the students and have them read them, and then they'll talk about how this is something we're going to learn about in this module, and here's how it relates to what you're reading in this case study. It's just a really good way to kind of get the students' attention and get them excited about what they're going to learn and how it's actually going to apply to what they're going to be doing in the real world. I've also worked on a couple different history courses. One of my favorite ones was on Civil War history. And the instructor did a great job of having little video clips at the start of each of his modules or each of his chunks of content that would sort of grab the students' attention. And so one of my favorites was he had found a video of Conan O'Brien just doing like a short impersonation of what it would be like to be a Civil War soldier. And of course, it was very humorous, but at the end of the clip, the instructor noted, okay, this isn't exactly what it was like for Civil War soldiers. So what we're going to focus on this module are, what those real life conditions were for Civil War soldiers. And I just thought that was a great way to get the students kind of interested in what they were going to learn about in that module. So those are just a couple examples of kind of how you can, gain your students' attention and get them excited about what you're going to be talking about. So once you have your learners' attention, we're going to talk about learning objectives. So you want to inform your students about what they're going to learn as a result of your instruction. So just a quick note for those of you who maybe haven't worked with learning objectives a whole lot or don't have a lot of experience with this. What you're looking at here is Bloom's taxonomy. And it's a way to create learning objectives that are measurable. So I think one kind of knee-jerk reaction for a lot of us, myself included, when I first started doing this type of work, I would often say things like, well, I want my students to understand this concept, or I want them to learn about this particular piece of information. The problem with that is that the terms understand and learn are not measurable. They can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So as I said, this is Bloom's taxonomy, and it's just a hierarchy of where students they need to master those lower levels on the pyramid before they can start mastering the higher levels. So the lower levels are typically more simplistic. And then as you build to the higher levels, it's a lot more complex cognitive rigor, more abstract thinking. So when you're utilizing Bloom's taxonomy, first you want to consider the level of your student and also the level of your course. So typically for lower level, 100 level courses, those are going to work on mastering some of those lower level objectives near the bottom of the pyramid, and then working their way up to the higher levels in higher classes. You can do a quick Google search for Bloom's taxonomy, and it'll come up with tons of different images like this. I really like this one just because it gives you the measurable verbs on the side that you can use to write your objectives. So as you can see, some are like define, list, describe, solve, produce, that type of thing, and they just go straight up the pyramid. So typically what I do when I'm planning the pieces of my course, one of the easiest ways to do this when I'm considering a module or a week of information or chunk of information is that I ask myself, what is it that I want my students to be able to do? And that's my objective. So if you say students should be able to write measurable learning objectives, then what you need to make sure is that your content aligns with that objective. And then it actually shows your students how to do this. It teaches them how to write those measurable objectives. So in this way, you kind of make sure that your content and your objective align. And then along those same lines, you want your assessment to show, it allows the students to show that they actually can complete that objective. So all three of those components need to align: your objective, your content, and your assessment. So once you've talked about getting your students' attention and writing your learning objectives, you want to consider how you're going to present your content. So let's talk about just a couple of considerations for that. First, you want to stimulate prior knowledge. This means, as you're introducing new material, let your audience know what skills or knowledge that they'll be applying, to the task, as well as how that subject matter might be connected to information that they already have in their knowledge base. You're also going to want to make sure that you align your content with your learning objectives. So again, if you think back to our previous example, if you want your students to, be able to write measurable learning objectives, then you need to make sure that your content teaches them how to do that, shows them how to do that, and gives them opportunity to practice that. Those learning objectives, I think, also really keep your content focused. So, instead, I think, and I have fallen into this trap many times, but I'll read an article or I'll watch a video and I'll think, oh, this is great. I'm going to include it in my course. My students will love this. It's best to look at your objectives and make sure that the content you're including actually aligns with those objectives. And that way you keep your course trim, and you're making sure that the information you're providing is very targeted. It's exactly what you want your students to learn. And you're kind of cutting away the extras and not just including things, because you think your students are going to find it interesting. You want to provide clear instructions and guidance. One thing I always try and keep in mind, which I'm sure many of us have learned this past year, is that when you're teaching in the residential instruction environment, you have the ability to explain things as you go along. You can answer student questions as they crop up. You can read your students' faces in the classroom and provide more guidance or clarify different points, provide more information as needed. Online, that's not always an option. So it's really crucial to provide clear guidance and instructions for students while they're navigating your course in Canvas and working through your materials. I've been teaching online a long time. I would say the absolute best case scenario when you provide information that isn't clear is that your email is absolutely inundated with questions, which is still pretty unpleasant. And the worst case scenario is that students just drop your course because they're confused and they aren't going to even bother to ask you a question. Typically what I'll do is if I've taught a course more than once, I think about, particularly if I've taught it in person, what were some of the questions or concerns that came up? And then I make sure that I address those in advance in my online course. So kind of trying to head off some of those questions before they actually become an issue in my online course. So you want to make sure that you're chunking your content. And this is a term that kind of refers to the strategy of breaking down your information into bite-sized pieces so that your students can more easily digest that information. So, we're kind of using chunking to present content in manageable bites. Typically in an online course, we recommend taking your overall course outline and then breaking that down into different modules that hold topics of information. So typically in a 16-week online course, you might have 16 modules, which would be, basically like a week of information on different topics. And then you also want to present your content in different ways with different modes. So you can use lectures, readings, hands-on and group activities, case studies, and so on. And doing this just gives students different options to study your material. It can appeal to different learning preferences that students might have. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're tying your content to the real world. So if you remember, we talked about this just briefly at the beginning as far as, gaining your students' attention. It's just as important to continue that throughout your course, helping them make those connections to why they're learning this and what they're going to be using it for once they step out of your classroom is really helpful to your students and helping them retain that knowledge. So, including stories, simulations, real world examples, just showing students how applicable these new skills are going to be for them. All right. And then once you've gotten your course content in order, you're going to want to begin to assess your students. So just to remember that your assessments need to align with your learning objectives. One key is that you want to give your students an opportunity to practice what they're learning with some lower stakes assessments before they get to their larger assessments. So maybe this looks like some weekly quizzes in Canvas that will help prepare them for a larger exam. It might mean breaking down a term paper into pieces so that the students submit different chunks of that paper for feedback and they have an opportunity to make corrections and learn from their mistakes and then polish as they go. The important thing here is that you're providing detailed and specific feedback to your students. This is what allows them to learn from their errors and then hopefully do better on the next assessment. So, maybe you could hold a synchronous debriefing session after a quiz to talk about, common errors that you saw on the quiz. If you provide detailed feedback and suggestions on their draft papers, that's always helpful. You could also provide them with a rubric that they have before they start work on, whatever project or paper they're doing. And then the students can see your exact expectations and the criteria that they need to meet in advance. And then last, we're going to talk about assessing performance. So it's not only to gauge your students' progress, but it's also to give you an opportunity to identify weak spots in your course. So, for example, if a vast number of your learners were struggling with, a particular concept or a particular module in your course, you might want to take a look at the learning objectives for that module, and then also at the content and the activities. Maybe there's some misalignment somewhere where what you're asking them to do, or what you're telling them they're going to be able to do upon completion of your content, you're not actually teaching them how to do that, or the assessment doesn't align with your objectives. So one of those pieces kind of needs to be tweaked. But that's sort of, a way to not only looking at your learner performance, but then what you can do to adjust your class to have it go better next time. And then I'll wrap up just in a moment here, but I wanted to show you sort of an example of how we typically lay out courses in Canvas. So these are all the pieces that we talked about. There would be an overview in a module to gain attention, kind of stimulate that prior knowledge. You'll have your learning objectives, which you, of course, want to make sure are measurable. You want to present your content and provide guidance for your students on how they should be moving through that content. Your discussions and activities are giving your students an opportunity to practice and get feedback from you on adjustments that they need to make. And then last year assignments not only are assessing the performance of their students, but they also they're giving the students an opportunity to show you that they can in fact meet that learning objective that you laid out for them at the start of the module, and apply their new skills. And a lot of times we'll use a very simple tool in Canvas when we're working with faculty, and it's just really a Word document worksheet. But on the left, that's just an example of what we provide as a template for faculty who are developing courses to help them plan each section or each module of their course. But as you can see, it contains all of the pieces that we just talked about. And so essentially, it's just an outline of the course for each module and how they're going to fill that in. And then when we're working with them in Canvas, the item on the right is how all that looks once it's been transferred into Canvas. So I will turn things over to Kevin here just in a second, but I just wanted to do a quick plug for Tilt. I would really encourage you to use the Tilt website as a resource for designing your course, whether it's online, hybrid, or residential instruction. You can find a lot of teaching effectiveness tips for designing online, hybrid, and residential instruction courses. We also offer a lot of online short courses, modules, webinars, on topics from everything from teaching online and engaging your students to how to create assignments or plan your first 4 weeks of class. So if you feel like you might want to polish what you've been doing in Canvas after our experience with COVID, you could sign up for some of Tilt's professional development offerings. We have a calendar on our website that lists what's coming up, and you can register there. And then I would also say, in addition, a lot of what you learn in these courses that Tilt offers is applicable to any mode of that you're doing. So you can kind of kill a number of different birds with one stone. And that is all that I have. So if there are no questions, I will turn it over to Kevin for more of the hands-on portion.
Okay, thanks, Katie.
Yeah, I'm going to unshare real quick.
Okay. Any questions for Katie at this point? I can't tell if someone was just speaking or not. Any questions for Katie? Okay, in that case, I think we'll go ahead and get started here. And Katie's presentation will be posted on our training help website. And I'll show you where that is here in a little bit. But otherwise, I think we'll go ahead and move on to the next portion of our training here. And I'm also now going to share my screen. At least one of them. Okay, can folks see my screen now? Let's see if I can do a...
Yes.
Great, thanks for letting me know. All right, let's take a quick look. Let's do a little housekeeping here. So to help things go with our training this morning, we use training accounts and a training course so that you don't necessarily have to be working in your own personal course right now as you're learning the basics of Canvas. I sent out yesterday a number of different files. One of them had the training account list here. So let me know, did anyone not receive a copy of this file? And I'm not seeing anything in here right now, but if you need some help finding your training account, let me know. I've got the list right here. I'll show you here in just a couple of minutes how we're going to use these training accounts and how we use these to log into Canvas. Then also I sent out a couple of files, and one of those is the exercises file. Because this is a hands-on virtual workshop, we basically are going to learn by doing, and we're going to work our way through the exercises on this sheet, which will then, at the end of the day, give you at least some basic tools that you'll need to start to understand how to work in Canvas and navigate in Canvas and how to start adding content to your course in Canvas. And is there anyone who did not get a copy of the Build a Course exercises sheet? Let's think here. I'm going to send. So I see Alan. I think Alan, I sent yours. I thought that, or Heather, maybe this morning, but let's take a look here. And so let's think here. Heather, I thought I sent you one this morning, but if not, I'll need you, if you could make a note here. Heather, you're going to be instructor 172.
Okay.
And then Hamad, let's see here. Hamad, you will be instructor 160. And Heidi, you were mentioning that you didn't see yours. So let's do this. And Heidi, you are instructor 155. So that's Heather, Hamed, and Heidi. Those are the three who said in the chat that they had not received their training account information. So you've got your information there, and I'll show you how to use it here in a second. And I'm also going to put in the chat, let me put up here real quick, a link to our page that would have these training handouts if you didn't get a copy in your email. So I will go ahead and post that in the chat. Okay, so if you were to get that link, if you don't have the training handouts in front of you, it'll take you to our training page. And on the right-hand side, you'll see Canvas content exercises, which is what we'll be working on this morning to help walk us through how to navigate and start to put things together in a course in Canvas. Okay, so those are the two main housekeeping things I wanted to take care of right now. Let's jump in and do a little bit of an overview with an obligatory PowerPoint slide, and then we'll jump in and start playing in Canvas. Let's go ahead and get this started. And so it looks like folks should be automatically in Teams. Everybody's logged in. And if there's any background noise or something, if you could mute yourself unless you needed to speak up or ask a question. So here's our agenda. So Katie just went through our pedagogical course design considerations. Thank you very much, Katie. We're going to take a little look at the course template that automatically gets applied to every Canvas course, concept of universal design, how to keep mobile in mind as more and more of our students are using mobile devices, the different file formats that we'd recommend that you use in your course, how you can kind of customize the left course menu, how you upload files into your course, how you then create modules and then link to those files within those modules, how to create pages which can add more color and images and more formatting on the page. We'll talk about the built-in dynamic syllabus, and then where you can get more information about Canvas and help and support. So that's kind of what we're going to be taking a look at this morning. Just some basics. Courses in Canvas, academic courses, are automatically created if they are worth 1 credit or more. So if they're worth 1 credit or more, in February, we created all of the fall and summer 2001 courses. In about 3 or 4 weeks, towards the end of September, we will create the spring 2022 classes. So they usually created 3 to 4 months ahead of time, which usually gives most instructors plenty of time to get ready for the next semester and be able to get in and start using the Canvas course. You get access to a section or course in Canvas when your department, each department has a course scheduler. And that's course scheduler, they go into ARIES. If you're not familiar with ARIES, which obviously means RAMs for CSU RAMs. ARIES is the student information system here at CSU. Your department course scheduler puts you into the ARIES student information system and lists you as the specific instructor for a specific section. And once that happens, within a day, that information then gets synced over to Canvas, and you then get access to the corresponding course in Canvas. So at this time of the semester, I will hear from instructors saying, hey, I can't see my fall course, what's going on? And most of the time it's because the department scheduler has not yet put them into the ARIES student information system as the instructor. And once they do that, then you get access to your course in Canvas. Another concept I'd like to remember is this idea of cross-listing. If I'm teaching History 100 this semester, and I teach sections 1, 2, and 3, well, I may not want to teach all of those as 3 very separate sections. They're all essentially going to use the same content. So I can cross-list or combine and put those into one big course in Canvas. Then I can present the same content to all my students. So sections 1, 2, and 3 will be underneath this one large course. Divided into 1, 2, and 3, I still have the ability, let's say, to go in and view my gradebook and say, I just want to see the students for section 2, and I can do that very easily. When I create assignments or quizzes in Canvas, I could say, well, section 1, their due dates are, they come into class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'm going to have their due date for my paper 1 assignment. Theirs will be on a Monday. But my section 2 folks, well, they come into class on Tuesday, Thursday. So they'll still do the same assignment in Canvas, but I can set them to have a separate due date and make their due date, let's say, on a Tuesday or a Thursday. So it gives me some nice flexibility when I've got those multiple sections in Canvas. So just want you to remember that concept of being able to cross-list or combine. And we have a handout that walks you through how to do that. And also the concept of reusing content. Once we get a course built in Canvas, we don't want to always have to go back and rebuild that from scratch. If I taught a course, History 100, last fall, I'm likely going to import my fall 2020 content, and I'm going to pull or import that into my fall 2021 course here in Canvas. I'll update the due dates, I'll update the syllabus, go through and check and see if any content needs to be updated, but it makes it a nice way to constantly be able to reuse our content and just keep moving that forward, and it gets better and better as we move into different semesters. It also gives the ability, if you're new and you come into CSU and you're just starting, and somebody taught this course last spring or last fall, and you might find that instructor and ask, hey, would it be possible for me to be put into your course so I can take a look at your content, and might it be possible for me to import a copy of your content into my course and then clean it up and slowly make it my own? So just need to know there's different ways for you to reuse different content if it's already in Canvas. And let me, as we go along, any questions on how courses get created or the concept of being able to cross-list and how we can reuse content? And I'm watching chat, or you're also welcome to speak up either way. I'm going to start moving along here. Let's talk about the roles in the course. So in your course, you have students. Students get into your course because they pay their tuition, they register for a class. They happen to go through a tool called RAM Web, which is how they register for courses and view their financial aid and their grades and so forth. So they register for a course, and then they automatically get put into your Canvas course. And Canvas and ARIES and RamWeb, the registration system, syncs up 3 times a day. Happens to be 7 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. So if your department course scheduler just puts you into a course right now at 10:30, and you say, Kevin, why can't I see my course in Canvas? Well, the next time the 2 systems sync will be around 1 p.m. So I would tell you, hey, can you go check at 1 p.m.? You should see your course at that time. If not, let us know. Same is true for students. So as we go through add and drop, it's automatically keeping your enrollments up to date in your Canvas course. You're put in as a teacher, you have full access to the course, you can grade, you can add content, you can add other people to the course, such as TAs and designers and so forth. Let's take a look at TA. If you were to put somebody in your course, you would have to manually enroll them with either their CSU email address or the CSU EID, their e-name. And a TA can see the content in your course, and they can go into the gradebook and help grade. But they cannot add content. So they can't add an announcement. They cannot create an assignment. They can't add something to a module. They just basically help with grading in the course. Let's think here, a designer, and we've created a new role called designer new quizzes, because we're about to, over the course of this next year, start using a new quiz tool in Canvas. So designer new quizzes, they can create content, but they can't access the grades. You also manually enroll them. Go up here a second, because I'm noticing I left out a role here. And then we also have a role of assistant teacher. An assistant teacher is basically a TA plus a designer. They can help with grades, and they can also help design content in the course and add content to the course. So they're kind of like a super TA, if you will. Difference between an assistant teacher and a teacher is an assistant teacher cannot add anyone to the course. So an assistant teacher could not add a TA, they could not add a designer. Only a full teacher in the course could add somebody else to the course. We also have the role of observer. This doesn't get used too often, but if you had someone say, could I take a look at your course? I just want to see the content, see if I might want to take this course, next semester or something. You could put them in as an observer. They can see content. They can't participate. They can't submit an assignment or post to a discussion or something. One of the observer types you might see in a course is we have an arrangement with the athletics department where we pair them as observers with student athletes, which means that they can see their student athlete, they can see the content in the course, they can see the work that the student athlete has done in the course, they can see the grades the student athlete has earned in the course. They cannot participate. They could not submit an assignment on behalf of the student athlete or anything like that, but they can monitor the student athlete's activity in the course, and especially because giving NCAA regulations, like every couple of weeks, they're having to report on the academic progress of their student athletes. So that's why they kind of need this constant access to their student athletes and the courses that they're enrolled in. Any questions on the roles in a course and the ones that you might manually enroll, TAs, designers, and assistant teacher?
Kevin, there was a question in the chat about whether folks get copies of my PowerPoint, which I know you said you could put on the ACNS website, as well as yours.
Yep, absolutely. I will post them, as well as one of the other handouts I sent out yesterday, and it's also posted up on our training website, was the Build a Course key points, and that highlights a lot of the key things that I'm hitting here on the PowerPoint, but I will also make sure the PowerPoint's up on our training website. All right, so there's our roles, and as Katie's already talked about, the idea of organization is key. That students just need to be able to find out how quickly they can find the items that they need to be working on in your course and know where they're supposed to be in the course at any given time. And that's just very well organized and flows right into the next topic that you'll be working with on your students. Kind of to that end, as you might remember, in spring of 2020, we quickly, as a university in mid-March, had to move every single course online. And that was, for instructors, that was a big lift and a lot of work to get that done. It was an adjustment for everyone, students and faculty and staff and so forth. At the end of that spring 2020 semester, we saw some feedback from students, and they gave us some feedback which led to, and I'll show you here when we go into our training course, we now apply a basic template to each course that gets created in Canvas that takes into the account some of the feedback from the students. A welcoming homepage, using modules to present your content and flowing through the course, that modules can turn learning objectives and what's expected of them in each module, that there's a syllabus in the course. So we'll take a little bit more look at that course template, which you'll see each time that you go into your Canvas course, and how you then can customize that and make it your own. And we're also going to talk about the concept as we're working our way and putting a course together, the concept of universal design, inclusive design, that consistency for navigation and so forth with that template, that as we work with different students some who might have a hearing concern, others might have a sight concern, that some of the things that we take into account when we put an image into a course, it has an alt tag, so that if a student is using special software that reads what's on the page because they can't perhaps see that page very well, when it comes to an image, it gives them an idea of what that image is about. We use headings instead of bold, so that when students are using some of the specialized software, it makes it very easy for them to navigate their way up and down a page and understand where different sections begin and end. We work with the Student Disability Center. That's it for those who are maybe new to CSU. That's the center on campus that if a student comes in with a documented learning disability, they have to go through the Student Disability Center to get that registered. And then upon that request, then you get notified and the student comes to you and lets you know that they have maybe qualified perhaps for additional time on a quiz, or that they might need captioning for any videos in the course, or they might need some other things that might be unique to their particular learning style and their learning needs. So those are some of the things that we take into account as we're looking at universal design and inclusive access.
And Kevin,
yep,
sorry,
yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a quick question about whether this recording is actually going to be available. The recording you're doing right now. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I record this one. In fact, there's a copy of this probably from last year that's already up on our training website, but I'll also put a copy of this one up there too. So yeah, thanks for letting me know about that one, Katie.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Let's see, as we know, for most of us, we probably spend more of our lives on mobile phones and smartphones than we did 5 or 10 years ago. We know many of our students spend a great deal of their lives using mobile. There is a mobile app for Canvas, one for students and one for teachers. So you'll find that students might be using their mobile devices to access some of your content. With that in mind, one of the things we try to take into account, as Katie mentioned, this concept of chunking content, that the pieces of content are in small enough pieces that it might be easy to navigate on a mobile device. Using pages in Canvas because they're HTML pages, which are easily read on a mobile device like a smartphone or an iPad or something like that. That helps that flow well on a mobile device. Trying to avoid really, really large file sizes that people might be trying to download to their mobile device. So whether that be video files or PowerPoints that don't have the images compressed, so it makes them really large files, which would take a long time to download. That we're using standards for videos for MP4, HTML5. That you might test with your own mobile device to see how your course might look. So those are some of the things we try to take into account, knowing that more and more of our students are using mobile devices to access our content in Canvas. And again, that sheet I sent out that has the key points for content, that has a lot of this information in here, and we will post these PowerPoints up on our training website. Let's talk about file formats to be used in Canvas. What if people want to type in the chat or speak up, what do you think is the most common file format that we see in a Canvas course? I'm going to need eye clickers or something for class participation. I see PDF. PDF is, yep, one of the top ones, and Microsoft Word. I would say both of those are probably the main ones that we see. Word because it's kind of low-hanging fruit. Most of us are using Microsoft Word to create our documentation, and often people will put Word up in there. The idea would be PDF because a PDF file is usually very easily read on almost any type of device, be it a Mac or a PC, be it an iPhone or an Android, be it an iPad or a Chromebook. So PDF would be the ideal. That said, knowing that folks do use Microsoft Office, again, if folks are new to CSU, we have a site license. We have half of our soul has been sold to Microsoft. That means we use a lot of Microsoft products on campus, and every faculty, staff, and student has access and can download copies of Microsoft Office. They can put it up to 5 different devices. So everybody does have access to Microsoft Office tools. So if you end up using PowerPoint or Word, and if you don't convert those into PDF, then make sure you communicate with your students to let them know, hey, you might see documents in here that are Microsoft Word, and just a reminder you, students, you have free access to that software. You don't have to go out and buy software to be able to view those items in your course. And also, if you're going to be using any specialized software, so in engineering or some other disciplines, they might be using, computer-aided design software, that the students, just as the nature of their major, might have to go and buy a copy of that software to be able to view some of those file formats that you're using in your course. And often, RAM Tech, which is the computer store in the Laurie or in the student center here at CSU, they often have really good pricing or have negotiated site license type pricing for that type of software. So if students are needing to buy a particular specialized software for your course, usually Ramtech will be able to get that to them with a better price than that they might find out on the web. If using videos, the ideal is MP4 or HTML5 are the formats, again, that play on just about every platform. As opposed to, on a Mac, I can create a .mov movie file, but that does not easily play on a PC. And the PC, vice versa, what they have for their specialized video type of files. So ideally, you want to be using MP4 or HTML5, which will play on just about any kind of device. Really small videos can go in Canvas, but in general, we want video stored outside of Canvas. Canvas is not optimized to deliver video content. And what do I mean by that? The systems that we do have on campus that are optimized would be Echo 360 or Microsoft Teams and their streaming videos in there. For folks who might be working with CSU Online or the College of Business, they have a separate video platform called Kaltura. Those optimized platforms are smart enough to know if a student's in Starbucks coming over a slow wireless connection and I touch Echo 360, Echo 360 knows to adjust how it delivers that video so that it gets delivered at a little bit slower speed so that the student can watch the video without it constantly stopping or jerking or waiting to download more and more of the video. So in general, that's not Canvas's strength. Canvas's strength is for delivering content, but video content, we ask for the most part, is stored on some of these other servers that are optimized to deliver video content. And then you put links in your Canvas course that allow students to then access that content. And then in the case of, let's say, Echo 360, if you set up those links in your course as a what's called a private link, you then also get a fair amount of analytics about which students watch that video and how much of the video did a particular student watch. So ideally, we want those videos stored on those systems optimized, and they're almost always using either MP4 or HTML5, so students can watch that on just about any kind of device. Any questions on some of those file formats that you would want to be taking into account as you start to build your course? Checking chat here. I'm not hearing anybody speak up, so we're going to go ahead and move on. And, oh, good. This is the point we might as well just jump in and start playing with Canvas. We're going to have you access Canvas here in just a second. The preferred browsers with Canvas are Firefox or Chrome. So does that mean you can't use Safari? Nope, you can use Safari. But if you contact me and say, Kevin, I can't see half of my grade book and I'm using Safari, one of the first things I will ask you to do is one, either clear the history or the cache in Safari to see if that maybe helps. But then I'm probably going to ask you, could you try Firefox or Chrome? And I'm picking on Safari because that tends to be the one where we tend to see more, hey, I can't see this button when I have it open in Safari, but when I open it in Chrome or Firefox, the button's right there. So Firefox and Chrome tend to have the best track record for us with Canvas. But if you use a different browser and if you encounter a concern, then we would ask you to switch over to Firefox or Chrome. And then if you can just remember canvas.colostate.edu, that will get you to where you need to go to access Canvas at CSU. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to close up our PowerPoint here, and I'm going to pop open Chrome, and I'm going to canvas.colostate.edu. And so can you go to this login page? Please do not log in just yet. I just want to show you a little bit what's on this page and show you how we're going to use our training accounts this morning. So canvas.colostate.edu has our login page. It has, we try to highlight announcements of things that we think are kind of a hot topic for both faculty and students to know about as we're heading into this semester and ongoing throughout the semester. At the top, you notice there's some different menus. We've got all kinds of training support, documentation for instructors and for students. We've got information about iClicker, which is our online polling system that we have a site license for here at CSU, how to get support on different topics with Canvas here at CSU. And within each college, if I wanted to hear under support, I would find that there's a link here. Every college has a Canvas coordinator, and he or she are in the department and they're available to work with you. If you had questions about using Canvas within your college, they're a great resource as somebody that I'd recommend that you get to know. So just if you remember canvas.colostate.edu, you get to our help website and our login site. Here's where we're going to log in with our training accounts. So normally you'd be logging in with your EID login, but today, this morning, because we're doing training, we're going to use this non-credit login button. So if you can go to canvas.colostate.edu, and if you click on the non-credit login, here I want you to put in a username, and for all of us, our username begins with the word instructor. And then the number that was on the training account list that I sent to you, there's no space, so I happen to be instructor 100. So instructor 100, no spaces. And then we all use the same password, which is CSU Canvas, all lowercase. So I logged in, I'm logging in with instructor 100, CSU Canvas. Let's see if I can actually get in. Hey, look at that. We like when things work. I'm bringing up my account list here again. Can you go ahead and log in with your training account? And would you please let me know if you encounter a concern? Just post something to the chat or speak up and let me know if you're having a concern getting logged in with your training account. I need some music to be playing in the background here. Sounds like everybody's getting in okay. So I'm going to pop back over to Chrome where I'm in with my instructor account. When you first come in, you'll see, we posted these are some global announcements that we've got out here. One reminding, this is normally the time when I start getting lots of questions from students. Why can't I see my fall courses? So let's, and I'll show you here in a second, but in Canvas, you need to publish your course and there's a start date associated with your course. And once those two items both occur, then students can see and access your course. The start date is almost always the Friday before a semester begins. So the start date for fall is Friday, the 20th of August. So that's been set automatically as a start date on every fall course in Canvas. And I'll show you here in a little bit, you'll need to take the explicit step of publishing your course, saying it's ready to be viewed by students. And then at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, August 20th, the course is published. The students then would have access to the course, be able to go in and see how's the course laid out, what textbooks might they need, anything else that they might want to see and learn about the course. So I've got an announcement here letting students know this is when you should likely expect to be able to access your fall course. That said, and I'll show you in a little bit where you can locate this, that start date, some people change. Some instructors say, I don't care if my students get in a week earlier. I'm going to set my start date to be August 13th. Others who are just assigned today to teach a course are going to say, you know what? I'm not going to be ready to open my course on August 20th. I'm going to wait till the first day of classes. I might move my start date to August 23rd and open it on the 23rd. But in general, the default start date for this fall is the 20th of August. We're talking about the virtual fall ramp up, that information, and a change in one of our tools here in Canvas. On the left-hand side, you normally come in here on the dashboard, and on the dashboard, you're usually going to see courses that you have listed here. You'll see the one that we're going to use here for training. You'll also see a calendar. So anytime if you create an assignment with a due date, it automatically appears on the calendar for a course, or you can manually add items to a calendar for a course if you wanted to. There's an inbox or email tool built into Canvas where you can email the students in a class and they can respond back to you right within Canvas. This can also be set up so that a copy of an email that you get in Canvas can be sent, let's say, to your Outlook account or your Yahoo account or your Gmail account. So there's a number of things on the left-hand side. I'm not going to go into all of them. I am going to show you, if I click on courses here, this particular person only has one course. I'm going to switch browsers real quick to show you. If I was in as an instructor and I had multiple courses, I would see courses listed here. But if I click on all courses, if I've been teaching for a number of different semesters, I start to have numerous courses that show up in Canvas. So I might choose to hide the previous courses. They'll still be there and I can go find them if I want to, but they won't be the ones that show up right initially on my dashboard. So if you notice here, if I start to have multiple courses, there's a star next to each course. And if I star a course, it makes it a favorite. And that means that will be one of the ones that shows up on your dashboard when you first come into Canvas. If you unstar one, then it'll be hidden. Still here, you can still access it if you want to go back and see it, but it just wouldn't be the first ones that you see. So for me, normally this time of year, I probably would be going in and hiding or unstarring my spring 21 courses or my fall 20 courses, because those aren't the ones I want to be working in right now. And then I would probably star my fall 21 courses. So they're the ones I would see right away and the ones that I could access and jump right in and start doing my work. I'm going to pop back in then as my instructor here. So that said, if you'll scroll down here, you will notice you should see a training course associated with the number that you have. Mine happens to be training course 100. So if you can you go ahead and click on your training course? And I'm also now going to bring up my exercise and put this off to the side here a little bit. Let's start talking a little bit as we work our way through these exercises and learn how to start to put together a course in Canvas. So let's start working through these exercises. First one, as we just kind of discussed, why did we create a course template and apply it to every course? Can folks see my screen right now? Can you see both my Canvas course and the Canvas course Build a Course exercises? And if somebody could, so I hear a yes in chat, okay. Okay, so I'd seen Yep, so hopefully you can now see what you need to see here. So can folks remember why we decided to apply that template to the courses in Canvas? Yep, consistency for students. Yep, consistent navigation. Feedback from students, especially from that spring of 2020 when we moved so much stuff online. How about preferred file types? Kind of a review, what are like the top file types that we would like to see used in Canvas that you're putting out for students? So for video, yep, MP4 and HTML5 is correct. And for content file types, ideally PDF. If you do happen to use Word or PowerPoint or something, communicate with that students and make sure that they can have free access to those software programs so they don't go out um, and purchase any software that they don't need to. I've seen Michael saying that the template wasn't applied. I'd have to take a look at that course, Michael. Um, Then I have another question. If another instructor shared a course with me, where would I see that course? So good question. So normally if they're going to share a course with you, they would have added you as an assistant teacher to their previous course or their current course. And when you then next log into Canvas with your EID, you would see an invitation at the top of the page saying, you've been invited to join History 100 as assistant teacher. And basically, do you accept? And you click, yes, I accept the invitation. And then that would allow you to access that course. And also, if you don't then initially see that course, usually then if you come under here on the dashboard, if I don't see the course right here, I'll go back to my dashboard here. If I didn't see the course here on my dashboard, I would click on courses. And at the top, I would click on all courses. And that would allow me to see maybe a course that hadn't been a favorite of mine that would be kind of hidden behind the scenes and where you could probably perhaps see that course that had been shared with you. Okay. All right, so we've answered questions 1 and 2. Can you talk a little bit about number 3? What would be a couple of things that you could do to make your course mobile friendly? Again, in the chat or speaking up. Chunky, yep. Smaller chunks. Yep. Check the course in the Canvas mobile app using pages where you can because they're HTML, which is kind of the generic code of the internet, which is easily displayed on mobile devices. So yep, those are a couple of things you could do to keep mobile in mind as you're designing your course. All right, look at that. We're through 3 items already. We may actually get through this course. Let's see, I show us 10:53. I'm going to go for another, 7 or 8 minutes, and then we'll probably take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back in, okay? So let's talk about number 4. Let's take a look at, on the left-hand side, so I'm in my course here in Canvas. On the left-hand side, I've got a number of tools listed here, and I can rearrange what's on this left course menu. I can hide items that I don't want my students to see because perhaps I'm not using those particular items in my course. What I cannot do is I can't add anything to this left course menu. I can't just come up with my own course menu item and put it on there. That's not a feature in Canvas. Going down here, usually if I look here, an eye with a line through it means that students cannot see that particular item. And that could be for a couple of reasons. For modules, I suspect the reason they can't see anything right now is because I don't have any modules yet in this course. And because I don't have any modules in the course, it won't be visible to students just yet. Once I do add a module and publish it, then the students would be able to see it and it would show up on the left course menu. So let's take a quick look. So when we're in Canvas, notice up here in the very top right, there's a button that says Student View. This allows you to view your course in Canvas, and something I would recommend that you use frequently as you add new content and assignments and assessments. You check with Student View to verify, can they see what I want them to see? Can they access what I'm expecting them to be able to access? And if so, it might point to the fact that I need to do something to tweak in my course to make sure that they can see these items. So if you click on Student View here in the top right, let's take a look at, notice what they can currently see on the left course menu. Students can see the home page, the syllabus, they can see their grades, they can see the people in the course, and they can see the course survey link. I want to make sure that they can see some other things on this left course menu too. So let's go back down here now to the bottom right. Notice this is where I can leave student view. So I'm going to click leave student view so I'm back in the course as an instructor. And I'm going to go down to the very bottom left of this course. There's that item called settings. So for every course, there's unique settings for this course. I'm going to click on Settings here. And when I come into these settings here, notice here, these are training courses, but here's the start and end date for the course. So if this was a fall course, we would see this set as August 20th, 2021 at 12:01 a.m. They would have access. The end date would be set for about the second or third week in January, which allows students to still have access to the course after the end of the semester to check their grades, maybe review the syllabus, perhaps download a copy of your PowerPoints or something like that. So the start date controls when the students can get into the course. The end date controls when they can no longer access the course. So occasionally I'll have students come in or instructor will come in and set the end date. Oh, well, the last day of class was December 10th, and they set the end date to December 10th. On December 11th, I get frantic emails from students saying, my course just disappeared from Canvas and I can't study for my finals because the instructor didn't realize that the end date cuts off student access to the course. So normally you don't normally have to change that end date. It's set to be open for about 2.5, 3 weeks after the end of the term to allow students to have some access, and then it automatically closes, usually right around the time when we're starting the next semester. But if I scroll up here, I've clicked on Settings at the bottom left. At the top, I can click on a tab called Navigation. And this is where I can control the items in the top box are visible to students. The items in the bottom box are hidden from students. So for instance here, and there's certain tools, and I'll talk about these, there's some exceptions to the rule, but I'll talk about this here in a second. So let's say I knew I wasn't going to use discussions in the course, but I could move discussions down here to this box down here and hide it from the students if I didn't want them to see that. But here's where I could rearrange, like I might want modules to be up a little bit closer since I'm using modules heavily. Maybe I want my syllabus to be one of the first things that the students can see, and assignments. So can you just take a moment in your course, click on Settings, Navigation, and just rearrange some of these items. Notice if I'm get tired of clicking and dragging, also to the far right of an item, almost everything in Canvas has a 3-dot menu. And that 3-dot menu lets me do something to that item. So here next, like for assignments, if I click here, I could say disable, which would be the equivalent of moving it down to that bottom box and hiding it from the students. So if you wanted to use it just using your mouse and say disable here, or I can drag and drop. But you can control which tools your students see, and don't show them. If you're not going to use discussions, I would not show them the discussion tool or chat or something like that. Use the tools that you are going to use in your class, make sure they're visible in this top box, put them in the order of importance that you think that you'd like the students to see. And then at the bottom, you're going to click Save to make the changes that you just made stick and now apply to your left course menu. And again, we'll see here modules we know, we'll show you here in a second. They're not hidden because I just officially hid them from the students. They're hidden because I haven't created any modules yet. I haven't created any announcements yet. I haven't created any assignments yet. That's why those particular tools are currently hidden from my students. And then the ones that are not quite so obvious would be like, do I see new analytics? It shows here, if I use student view, you would find out new analytics is just for instructors. They can't see new analytics. I don't know why it doesn't have an eye with a line through it. It should. They can't see the multi-tool. They can't see rubrics and things like that. So when in doubt, use the student view to just verify what students can and cannot see. Any questions on how to rearrange and kind of get that navigation on the left course menu unique to your course? And then once I do this, if I do this for my fall 21 course, if I were to then import this content into my spring 2022 class, then that left navigation would now stick and it would have my preferences that I had set in my fall course. Okay, I show it's just about 11 o'clock. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and let's come back at 11:05. So stretch, shake out the cobwebs, get a cup of coffee, do whatever. But why don't we pop back in here in about 5 minutes and we will pick back up and then we'll start working on adding files to our course. Okay, so I will see you in about 5 minutes. Asmal, can you try speaking again? Can you hear me okay? I'm not hearing anything on this end, so I'm not sure if there might be something going on with your microphone and Microsoft Teams. Can anyone else hear Asmal speaking? Trying to figure out if this is just on my end.
We are here.
Okay. So I'm hearing from other folks saying they also don't hear Asmal when you try to speak. So it sounds like there might be going something on with your microphone. So for now, if we can just go ahead and use chat if you have any questions. And how about to make sure this isn't a global issue? Can somebody else speak? To make sure that, as far as I know, not everyone's muted or blocked.
This is Fabiola. Can you hear me?
Okay, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so it does sound like it might be something unique on Asmal's side. And so the ideal to publish the course, if everything's set, I usually post an announcement in Canvas. I will probably post it probably next Monday. I usually would recommend that you publish your course either next Wednesday or Thursday, so that when it automatically has the start date occur on the 20th of August, that then students would be able to have access to your course. And when folks come back, I'll show you how to actually do that. And Asmal, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name properly or not, but hopefully I'm getting close enough.
Hey, Kevin, this is Fabiola. I have a question. When I looked at the training page for the PDFs on the right side, I was able to view the third one that is listed from the top, the one on rubrics, but the first two PDFs failed to download. I couldn't open them. So when you have a chance, if you could check and let me know if it's perhaps my own issue or it's another,
Sure.
glitch.
Could you remind me of that at the end of the workshop? And then we can
I'll be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I show it's about 11:05, 11:06. So let's jump back in. And since this came up as a question, let's take a look at, I'm in my course as an instructor. Let's talk about how do you publish the course. Right here in the top right-hand corner, notice it's red unpublished. I can see currently, even if the start date occurred, students would not be able to access this course because it's not published. And if I were to click on the publish button, and I usually don't do this until I'm truly sure that I would be kind of ready for the students to get in, but I can publish now knowing that the start date's not going to occur until August 20th. You could publish now. You just click on the publish button and it turns to a happy green. And now I know I've got a happy green publish button, and the start date on my academic course should be October 20th at 12:01 a.m. Students would then be able to access the course at that time. Let's go add some stuff into our course. I had sent out as an email, and it sounds like maybe not everybody got my email, so I'll have you other folks who may not have gotten an email, we'll improvise. But I had sent out some sample files that you could use for building this course today. You don't have to use my files. You could upload, any Innocuous files you have on your computer if you want to kind of do this next step. But I'm going to go in here, and we're working on item number 5. We're going to upload some files into the files area of our course. So on the left course menu, if you scroll down, you'll see there's an item called files. It is hidden from students. In general, we don't want students in here. This is where we prep and create our files. Then we're going to make them available in a way that makes sense to our students, chunked information, by presenting these files in the modules in our course. So I'm going to click on Files. And you've got a couple of items in here that are part of when we import the template in these courses. You get a couple of folders here. We're going to create a folder here. I'm going to mimic how I'm going to present my content to my students. I'm going to mimic here under my files area. So I'm going to have a folder for module 1 and a folder for module 2 and module 3 and module 4. And I'm going to put the appropriate information into each one of those folders. So notice here when you're in the Files area of your course at the top right, you've got a folder button, plus folder. We're going to click on plus folder and create one called Module 1. And I can either then hit enter or click on the check mark here for that to take effect. So I now have a folder called Module 1. And if you've now created your Module 1 folder, will you click on that folder because I want to put something into this folder. So I'm clicking on Module 1 folder. And I can either drag and drop, or I'm going to go ahead and just choose files, but I'm going to add items to this Module 1 folder. So I'm going to click on Choose Files. And again, I'm going to get the ones that I had sent out. If folks got those, they're welcome to use that. If not, you're welcome to just grab some files on your computer. I've got to go through my hierarchy, go find the particular ones that I have for this particular workshop. And notice, for me, if I'm working, I would be building, as I'm designing content for my course, I likely would have this also on my local computer. I'm grabbing different articles, or I'm preparing PowerPoints, or creating Word that I'm going to convert to PDF. I would probably have a folder that said Fall 2021. And then underneath there, I'd probably have a folder that had History 100. And then under History 100, I'd probably have a folder called Module 1. And so here's my Module 1 folder. And here I can see the items that I've started to put together that I want to go into my Module 1 up here in my Canvas course. I can either pick one item, and I could click enter or click open, and it will add it in there. Or I could select these all at once. On a PC, I can do what's a Control A to select all. I think on a Mac it would be Command A. So I can select all of these. I could pick specific ones. I could hold down my Control key and say, hey, I want this file and this file to be able to go up here. I'm going to do Control A, or I could have highlighted it with my mouse. So I'm selecting all these files. I want all of these to go up into the files area of my course. And I'm going to click open. And notice the files now are flowing into the files area of my course in my Module 1 folder. I've just put all these PDF files. I see a different question for Asmal saying, I have classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Are you going to combine all 3 of those into one big course, Asmal? Or they can be taught as 3 separate, distinct courses in Canvas? One big course. Normally you don't have to segment the content that way. Normally you would just put, this is the week 1 material, whether, and it might then be on the assignments of the due dates that you set that give the different students in different sections an idea of, oh, when should I be viewing that PowerPoint slide? Well, if I'm in the Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, well, Sunday I probably should be viewing that PowerPoint. If I'm in a Tuesday, Thursday course, well, maybe I'll wait till Monday to view it. And of course, that's assuming, of course, all your students view all of your files before they come to class. But no, I would just Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, and then you can control, again, through assignments and different due dates, maybe how the timing for different sections in terms of when you want them finishing different items. Okay, so I've now put this stuff, I've uploaded the files from my local computer into the files area of the course. Students are not allowed to access them this way. So we're now going to go build a module. I'm going to skip here. I'm going to skip to item number 7 and then come back to item number 6 where we'll create a page. So let's go to, I'm doing item 7. Let's go create a module and put this stuff into the module so students can see and access it. So back on my left course menu here in Canvas, I'm in my course. Here's the modules item. I'm going to click on modules. And you're going to see the similar kind of format throughout Canvas. When I want to create a module, I click plus module. Before you saw I wanted to create a folder, I created plus folder. You'll see when we do assignments, you click plus assignment. It's a pretty similar navigation in Canvas. I want to create a module. I click plus module, and I call it creatively Module 1. And I click add module. I now have a module now in my course called Module 1. Okay. I want to add stuff to this module. So once again, I'm in Module 1. I'm under Modules, Module 1. I come over here and notice I've got a plus sign here. I want to add something to this module. I click on plus to add something. And notice here when I come in here, I get a drop-down menu. I could add assignments. If I've created assignments and so forth, that would be unique to Module 1. I could add those here, or a quiz. We're going to add, in a second, we can see I could add pages, I could add a discussion, I could do headers, I could add a link to an external website. I want to take you out to the Coloradoan or the Wall Street Journal or whatever that might be. I could add a link to that. If I'm using, let's say, Pearson or McGraw-Hill as my, let's say, and I'm using an e-text from those publishers, I could be putting a link into one of my first modules that says, click here to access the e-text in McGraw-Hill or Pearson. So that would be an external tool outside of Canvas that I can link into Canvas. In this case, we just put those files in the files area of our course. I want to be able to link to those files to this module so students can get to that information. So under the add, I'm selecting file. And notice now here I can see it starts to break it out. The bold items tells me that's the name of a folder. And here's all the items that I added into the Module 1 folder. And again, I could add these one at a time, or I could select them all by, and again, depending on each computer you're using, I can hit the Shift key and then click so I can select them all. I can highlight them this way, so I want them all to go in all at once. So I'm selecting the items I want to add to this module, and I click Add Item. And notice now, it has added all the different items that I put underneath here that were in the Module 1 folder under Files. I now have created links here for the students to be able to access. And the nice thing is here, let's think if I look at the order here. Well, I think that the learning objectives is one of the first things I want the students to see. Notice here, I get this little kind of crosshair item. I can drag and drop and make sure that these are in the correct order. And it looks like here looks like I've got a duplicate. I'll have to check and see why. I don't need two of these. I'm going to remove this one. I can use this three-dot menu here to the right of an item that I added here. And I can say, you know what? I've got two of these. I don't need that. I can say remove. It doesn't remove the file. It's still under the files area of my course. I'm just removing the link to that particular file here under my module. So it looks like I've got some duplicates here that I would want to get rid of. So here's where I can remove them. And sometimes I might have something named like here, build a pedagogy. Why don't that's the way my file is named, and I might understand that, but maybe for my students, I can come over here and I can say to the three-dot menu, I can say edit, and I can say, you know, I don't like the way that displays. I'm just going to make this say, you know, build a course pedagogy. I'll take out the dashes here. It's not actually changing the file itself. I'm just changing the way it displays to my students. I don't need to see number 1, which means I probably have a duplicate, or this is a second version of something. If I click update, then I've just changed the display name to the students, so it's easier for them to read and easier for them to see. And then once again, I could be, maybe my syllabus should be up here. So I can, once I put these items and attach them here, I can rearrange the order. I can remove them if I decide they're not appropriate. Any questions so far on how we put stuff into files?
Yeah, Kevin, this is Fabiola. So my question is the files option under the home column. So is that more like a container for the files that are perhaps organized in a way ready to grab? Because I've been building my modules directly, you know, dumping the files into modules, but directly from my computer. I haven't been using the files. Yeah,
I prefer to do the files area, and I'll tell you why. As somebody, I've been supporting, I've been supporting online systems since 2005, and I've been supporting Canvas since 2014. I occasionally will come into a course, and I'll go into files, and underneath here, there won't be any folders. There'll be 150 files here in alphabetical order. I will see duplicates, like we see here. Do I see if I've got here? I will see, you know, this -1 tells me that I've got duplicate files here. I will see 6 copies of the syllabus. I will see 4 copies of the Module 1 PowerPoint. And now we get to guess, well, if somebody's complaining that the PowerPoint in Module 1 is broken, now I have to come in here and try and guess, well, which version is that that's actually linked out to the module? And where might that be listed in the list of items? If I've got 150 files here, are they in alphabetical order? Are they in an order that makes sense to me? Or did the instructor maybe have a very unique way of naming their particular files that makes it a little more interesting to come in and try and help troubleshoot? So that's why I prefer to be very organized behind the scenes in the files area, Fabiola.
Okay.
You could do it that way, but that's my preference. That way, if I come under files and there's, you know, I should see a folder here for, you know, all 16 weeks of my semester. And then I know if I just need to update the PowerPoint for week 8, I can go right into the week 8 files. I can make sure it's got the correct version of that file and then link it out into modules. So I just find it, the more organized I am behind the scenes, it makes it a lot easier to keep things up to date and make sure that I'm showing the students the up-to-date version of my files.
Thank you.
So that's your IT geek explanation about why I like it organized. Okay, so we have modules here. I want to know if the students can see this module. Where should I go? What should I do? Who can type the fastest? Or speak up, either way. How can I see my course through the eyes of a student? Student view, yay!
Go home and get a student view, yeah.
Absolutely. So if I come up here to student view, where's modules? I just put stuff in that module. Why can't I see it as a student here in the left course menu? What's going on? Does Kevin know what he's talking about? Let's go leave student view and let's take a look at what's going on. This is why I say, let's do, yep, Asmal's got it, it's unpublished. Let's go look. I'm going to leave student view. Let's go back to modules. Let's take a look. Notice everything under the module has this happy little green circle and white check mark. They've been published. Go up a little bit higher. Notice module 1, the module itself has not been published. So the students can't see anything within module 1 because I didn't publish the module 1. Now, sometimes that makes sense. I know this would hardly ever happen, but let's say next week I get assigned to teach a section in Canvas, and I've got all of a week to get started, and I might get my module 1 and module 2 ready, but I might have to be, trying to stay a step or two ahead of my students. I might just now be starting to work, let's say on module 3 or module 4. I might choose not to publish that module. I might get it all set and all rearranged, and then once it's ready to go, I could then publish the module. So yep, Asmal had it right on the hit it right on the head. If I click here, I have to publish the module itself. Then if I go to student view, let's go see. Looks like it did not take effect just yet. Published, go back to modules, and sometimes it takes a second for this to catch up. We can see the modules published and the items underneath the module are published. Let's go back to home. Modules. Now let's pop into student view. And sometimes this is a cache issue within my browser. So it hasn't shown up just yet. I'll have to take a look. Might have to look at clearing the cache in my web browser. But I would expect to see modules here on the left-hand side. I'm going to have to check and see why my browser is not doing that just yet. But if I come back into the modules, I need to make sure that the module itself is published as well as the items underneath the module. All right, any questions on how we got the module set up? We put our files underneath. We organized our files by folders that are matching the modules we're going to have in our course. And I think Katie mentioned this idea of often we use the idea of either, module 1 or section 1 or something more generic as opposed to week 1, week 2, week 3, because then, all of a sudden next summer I'm asked to teach this course, but instead of being a 16-week course, it becomes an 8-week course or a 4-week course. And then it gets really interesting to say, hey, in the first week of summer school, I want you to do the first 3 weeks of modules in Canvas. That gets a little confusing for your students versus, hey, I'm moving into summer school and now you're going to see module 1, module 2, module 3, and those are the 3 I want you to take care of in the first week here in summer school. Can we set a publish date on the module earlier? When I come under a module, there are ways, let's think here, but if I edit a module here, I can set a lock date and I can set a date here. As well, if I wanted to say, I don't want people going into this module before a certain date, I could put a date on here. It's just one of the things that you then have to make sure that you monitor that when was that date set and is it set appropriately? And if you were to then import this course, let's say into next spring or next fall, that you'd have to remember to make sure that you go in and check those dates so that you're not inadvertently locking your students out of the content. But you can set a lock date on a module if you wanted to. And I'll mention the concept, but I'm not going to go into it. I could set requirements on module 1 and say, hey, you need to have clicked on the syllabus. You have to have taken the quiz and gotten a score of at least 3. And then I can go into module 2 and say, hey, you can't access module 2 until you've met the requirements of module 1, which is you had to at least click on the syllabus and take the quiz and get a score of at least 3. And then I would magically unlock module 2. So I'm not going into that much detail. Just want you to have that concept. It is something that is possible. Let's go create a page in Canvas. So page lets me to do more. I can add images, I can add colors, I can add more formatting. It makes the course come a little bit more alive. And also, we also ask that you ideally put a nice looking home page when students come into your course. As you've seen, the one that's in there right now is from our template, which is mostly for your use. It's not what we want students seeing, because it's kind of an outline of some of the key things we think you, instructor, should be doing in your course as you get it ready for your students. So let's go on the left-hand side, let's go find pages. And it's on the left side, and by gosh, it's here, something called pages. I usually don't show my pages to my students because I'm usually going to interweave them within my modules, and they'll be presented in they flow. There's a particular page that goes with module 1, there's a particular page that goes with module 2, so I want them to see them in the order that I've designed for the course. I'm going to click on pages. I see the current page, which is my home page, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So I want to create a new page here. So I've clicked on pages on the left course menu, and I'm going to click view all pages here in the top left. And by gosh, here's the plus symbol again. Instead of plus module, it's a plus page. So let's create a new page. We're going to give it a title called Welcome. Then this is what's called the rich content editor in Canvas, or in IT parlance, it's called WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. It's a way I can start creating basically a web page, and I can easily format it. I can bold it. I can change colors. I can add headings. I can add bullets and things like that. So here, initially, I want to add an image to this page. So again, I had sent out that file that went out to most folks yesterday, a zip file that had some images. You're welcome to take a look at that. Or if you've got an image on your computer, you're welcome to add one, or you can just watch me here. But I'm going to go ahead and add an image to this page. And notice up here, I've got a number of different buttons in bold and italics and so forth. I've also got one here, if I hover over, it says images, how I can add an image to this page. I'm going to click here, and I want to upload an image. And I'm going to click and browse. And I have an images, and I'm going to back up a step. This is not normally the way I want to do this. I'm going to change my mind here real quick. I normally like to go under files. You can watch me, or you can follow along. I like to have an images folder here where I keep my images that I'm going to use in this course. So I've gone to files. I'm going to create a new folder called images. Type it and click enter. I'm going to go into my images folder, and I'm now going to upload some images here that I want to use in my course. And again, I'd sent this out, or if you've got some images on your computer that you might want to add one here. But here I am on my local computer where I have some images stored. And I'm just going to go ahead and add them all. So I'm selecting the ones I want, and I can either hit enter or click open. It's the same thing. And it'll start bringing those images up here for me to see. Okay, so I've now loaded some images into an images folder in my course, so I can then easily use those within my course. And these are the different ones I happen to add. And I can see little thumbnails here, so I have a kind of idea of what they look like. Now I'm going to go back to pages. I have to go back. I had not saved anything, so I'm doing plus page to create my welcome page again. So click on pages, all pages, plus page to create one. Now I'm going to click in my editor box here. I'm going to this icon, which I think is a mountain with a moon or sun rising over it. I'm clicking on images. I'm going to say course images. And now it's going to show me all the images that I had previously uploaded. And I'm going to pick this green one. I'm saying I want the image to be here. Question? Was there a question? If not, I've clicked images. I'm selecting an image. I'm going down here. And let's do that one here. And now I can just go ahead and close this by clicking the X button. And I've now added an image to my file. I'm going to click on the image and I see image options. And here's where I can add that alternate text, the alt text, which again, if I've got a student in my class who've got a sight impairment of some sort, and if they might be using a special software like JAWS or something that reads to them what's on the page because they perhaps can't see what's on the page, this is where I might put, this is a build course banner image. And then I would click done. Okay, so I got there by, remember I had uploaded my images into my folder in my files. I did add image here. I searched and grabbed the image from that folder that I had created. I clicked on the image so I could get those image options so I could make sure that I added an alt text. I could also play with the size or something like that here. But now I have an image at the top of my page. And now if I click just to the right of this image, I can then click enter so I can now go below that image and add some text. So I've got the image, I click to the right so that I can go here, and now I can here. This is where I could add some other yada, yada, yada. I can do my Steinfeld here. I can do, again, I can format. So the yada, 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 maybe that I want. And remember, we talked about trying not to use bold so much as opposed to maybe using a header. So I might make this a heading 3. And we'll do that. And then I'm going to go down here and maybe I can add another list. I could highlight here. And under format, let's double check where they put, we've got a new here. So I could kind of play here and change font sizes and colors and different fonts. Okay. And if I wanted to, let me show you how. So often we will put links on a page here. So I'm going to type here, this is a link. So perhaps I want to link to my syllabus or to the course objectives or to a video file. What I can do is I usually type some text and then I highlight it. Then I go under here under insert and I want to insert a link. Let's go here. And in this case, I'm going to link to one of the files that I already uploaded into the files area of my course, or I could this is where I could link to an external link. So if I had recorded a video and placed it in Echo 360 or Microsoft Stream, I could go get the URL or the web address for that video. I would click on external link, I would paste the link to that video here, and then that would be a way that I could allow my students to access the video that way. I'm going to say course links. Underneath, notice here I could link to, if I had an assignment, I could create this to link to an assignment or a quiz on the page. I haven't created any of those here. Underneath the links here, I could say, no, I want to link to one of those items that I put in the files of my course. I click on course files, module 1, and maybe I create a link to the syllabus. I'm going to go back and take a look at that. Click the X here to close that. And now I can see that it's a link. And what did I do? I highlighted the text. I did insert. I said insert a link. This happened to be a course link, so I went to course links. I could link it to one of the, like to a module or something along those lines. In this case, I wanted to link to a particular file that I had already uploaded into a folder in my course. So I went to course files. I could see my folders and I just clicked on the item, which then made the text that was highlighted, made that a live link to that particular item in my course. Notice here, this is a list. I think I started to do this. This is a list. Under the 3-dot menu here, that's where maybe I could make this a bulleted list. I can indent, I can do different things. So I can make a page look very nice and leap off the page with an image that I love and just make it very appealing to my students. And then once I've done, so notice at the bottom, I've got save. Maybe I'm still working on this page and I'm not ready to publish it because this concept of publishing runs throughout Canvas all the way. If I want students to see a page, it has to be created and published. If I want them to see an assignment, it has to be published. A module has to be published. A quiz has to be published. It's you explicitly saying this item is now ready and available for students to see and interact with. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Publish. All right. I can't say this is my nicest looking page ever, but it's covering the basics. I've added an image, I've got a title, I've added text, I've added a link on here. In fact, I can test this link and see this is a link. Where is this link going? If I click on this, it's opening my syllabus. That's what it's supposed to be. Should have named that link differently. I probably should have said course syllabus or syllabus 2021. I can close this now. So notice, often depending on the web browser, Firefox will let me open this item and it will open right here in Canvas. Chrome will not let me do this. Chrome will force me to download this file. So sometimes I like Firefox for that reason. So now what I want to do is I've got this page. Let's do two things. One, I want to make this my home page. Okay. So let's go back to, I'm going to take you from the start. We'll click on Pages and View All Pages. And notice right now, this one is considered the front page, the one that came with our template. Notice it's marked with being the front page. I don't want that one to be my front page or my home page. I want this welcome one that I just created. I want that to be the page students see when they come into my course. I'll go to the far right to that three-dot menu, and I'm going to say, no, this one should be the front page. And then let's go up here to Home. And now the page I just designed is the home page that I want for my students. Also notice over here on the right-hand side, there is a button called Choose Home Page. So the default is course modules, but normally we're asking you to make a front page of some sort and make that your home page. But you could take students directly to course modules or assignments. We think a nice home page, a welcoming home page, something with an image, welcome to, History 100, as well as, so go back to my example, remember how I had said, I'm teaching History 100 sections 1, 2, and 3. So I've cross-listed and put sections 1, 2, and 3 into one big Canvas course. Well, my students, when they first come into this course, they would see the course that I made as the parent or the original item that I picked to be kind of the overarching section or course. They would likely see History 100 section 1. So I normally would come in here and I would edit this home page. And I would probably put something here that says this course contains sections 001, 002, and 003. That way, when my 002 students initially come in, and they initially look up here and it's going to say History 100 section 001, they'll think, well, I'm not registered for section 001, but I normally would put on here one of the first things they'd see. In fact, I would probably make that a header of some sort here. And make it try and really stand out for them so that it would be very obvious that, no, you're in the right place. Even if you're in section 2, this course, even though you might see up here in the top left, it might say section 1, this is trying to get their attention, make sure that you know that this contains multiple sections and you should see your section listed here. Questions on how we designed a page and how we made it the front page and the home page?
Hello, Kevin.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for introducing this. And I realized on August 20th, we also need to make a start page on Canvas. Is it the same way we do it as your welcome page?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep, if you want to have a start here page or something like that, you can create a start here page.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
And often folks would maybe put that as one of the first items under their modules. And in fact, let's take a look at, I've only got one page here, but if I were to go under modules now, here I am under module 1. Remember, I can add something to my module 1. So I click on the plus button, and underneath here, we can see that pages is an option that I can add here. I happen to have a welcome page. If you went into a tilt design course like Katie was talking about, you would see in here, you would see learning objectives page week 1. And that would be a page nicely designed using probably a similar template that they use so that their pages all look essentially the same. Nice colors, nicely indented, perhaps an image. And And then they would come in here and they would then say, okay, I want to add this page. I only have one, the welcome page. And then I could say add item. And I would probably then, now it added it to the bottom of my module. I'd drag it up here to the top and make it the first thing that they would see, or start here or something like that. But so that's how you can create your pages. You can make it a home page, and or as you create additional pages, perhaps you got unique a page that talks about the course objectives for each module. You would create that page, and then you would just add it to the appropriate module by clicking on plus and pages, and then finding the appropriate page to add to that.
Thank you. That's informative.
Good to hear. Let's see, are we working our way through here? We've now done 5 and 6 and 7. What else did we say we're going to do here? Let's go take a look at the syllabus in here. And in fact, if you'll hold for a second, I'm going to pop into another course here. Over here. I'm going to pop into a course that's got more stuff in it. So here's a course that I've played with over the years. Okay, here's a home page and so forth. I want to show you what the dynamic syllabus looks like in Canvas. In every Canvas course on the left-hand side, it has a syllabus link. When you click on that link, one, I can add things here. I'm going to show you how to do this here in a second. But notice at the bottom what it's doing is I create an assignment and ideally give it a due date. It automatically adds those assignments on the list here in due date order. So students can have this as kind of a one-stop shop if they needed to see what assignments are coming up in here and so forth. They can click on the dynamic syllabus, and the dynamic piece is that it automatically adds any assignments you create. It adds it to the bottom of the syllabus for students to be able to see. Again, in due date order. If for some reason you did not use due dates, then it would be in alphabetical order. But I just wanted you to see an example of one that has, well, at this point, probably an obnoxious number of stuff on here. But that's how things get added here. And if I added weights, if I had my grading weights and so forth, they would see that here, and that's a totally different class. But I wanted you to see one that's got a fair amount of items underneath here. And now let's jump back into our course that we're using today, and let's click on the syllabus item on the left course menu. And looks like I just kicked myself out here. Let's see why that was. In one too many browsers at once. Let's go in here. I'm going back in with my Instructor 100 account. Back into my course, I've clicked on syllabus, and here's kind of a blank syllabus. If you click on edit up here in the top right-hand side, so again, I'm on the left menu, I clicked on syllabus, and I'm clicking edit. Here's my rich content editor again. So here I have some instructors, they've designed their syllabus in Microsoft Word, and they go and they do a copy all, and they paste their syllabus right here. And then they go back in and make sure that they're formatting how Microsoft formatted bulleted lists and how Canvas formatted the bulleted list. Do they still look okay and so forth? So I have some folks who do that. Most, I would say, probably come in here and they create a link here. They have created their syllabus for fall 2021. They've uploaded it into the files area of their course. And then they would come underneath here and they would say insert, link, course link, because I have uploaded it into my files area. And underneath here, I would just go under here and say files, into my course files. And let's see here. I'm trying to think where my course files just went. Let's go double check here. Back under modules, it looks like. Huh. I will have to see what happened just here. All of a sudden, all my modules are gone here. I don't recall doing something that would do that, but that's a little odd. Put some files in here real quick.
Hey, Kevin. This is Mike Anthony. You gave me access, and everything I'm seeing you do is being shadowed in my logins. I think you made me part of your course somehow.
Okay.
I might be blocking you out. Is the point? Okay.
And are you logged in as 173, Michael? Could I have you log out for a second and come back in?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Yep.
And log out is in the top right-hand corner.
Yep.
So if you could try that and come in with instructor 173 and see if that might help. All right, so I've reloaded my course because I think we may have just had our wires crossed here. Back to syllabus. Edit. Okay, I want to add something to this page, so I'm doing insert. I want to insert a course link. I could link to, again, if I wanted to put a link to a module here, I could now link to module 1 on here if I wanted to, but I'm going to go under links and I want to go into the files in my course. Here's my module 1, here's my syllabus right here. So I've just added a link to my syllabus here. I might make this, type here, fall 2021. Okay. And then if I were to do update syllabus here at the bottom, and then if I were to go into student view, I could have my student go to syllabus. They can click on this item. Aha, so this is a good one. In here, because I just had to recreate my module because of whatever might have happened with our wires getting crossed there, my module 1 is not published yet, which means this is saying, this syllabus file has been added to a module, but since the module is not published, I can't let you see this just yet. So I'm going to go under modules. I'm going to publish my module. Back to student view. Back to syllabus. Now when I click on it, again in Firefox, I can see a preview in Canvas. In Chrome, it would probably force me to download the file. Now I can see the students can see my syllabus. And again, I could add an image to the syllabus page. I have people add numerous, maybe this is where they put their academic integrity statement or something like that. They may put it here, they may put it in their first module, they may put it in both places. And I have some folks who's like, I have my own module. I have some folks who hide the syllabus item on the left course menu, and they just put their syllabus in module 1 and tell the students, the information is under the modules. But just need to see this dynamic syllabus, the idea that it would add any assignments down here as you start to create those in the course, and just how that you could then add an item to the page, just as we did with the welcome page. This is essentially a page. And I can customize that syllabus page. Any questions about the syllabus? And so mostly we're starting to work our way through. That's most of the things that we were going to cover today in this intro to Canvas. The idea of getting your files prepped, putting them in the files area of your course, creating folders that's going to mimic the way that you're going to have your modules laid out, then creating your modules. Same thing, module 1, module 2, module 3, adding items to your module, knowing that you can add all kinds of different things here. Again, let's do an external URL. I can make this go to, let's see where I'm at. So here I'm just adding a link. Maybe I want them to see the CSU homepage as part of a module. I would get the name of the page here. I give the page a name. I can say whether right now this would open right here in Canvas, but I could tell it, hey, I want this to open in a separate tab. If I wanted this to be a little indented on the page, I could do that. And I click Add Item, and I now have an item called CSU Homepage. I did not have it set to open in a separate tab. Let's see if I pop open here or not. Let's see if I've got the actual correct login page here. And nope, I've got too many other things open, so I'm not going to worry too much about that one. But that's how I can create a link to an external page. And I think I've typed the incorrect URL here, so I'd have to go double check that I've got the right URL. But that's how I can connect that one if I wanted to. So just that idea of I'm using modules to lead my students through it. I'm interweaving probably pages with objectives is usually one of the first pages they see as they come in here. If you saw Katie's example, she might then have readings and more, or readings and videos. I can then interweave here. Now I want you to participate in the discussion. Now I want you to go view this PowerPoint. Now I would like you to go take this quiz, or now I'd like you to go move on and work on this paper as part of the assignment. So I can add just about anything I want to a module in the course and just slowly build out my course and all the different items. Tomorrow we get into the concept of assessments and assignments. And if you're with us tomorrow, we'll talk about how can you create those items and then add those into a module. So it can be just very powerful. We've created our home page. We saw how to add a page to a module. We saw how to make this a home, make a particular page a home page. And again, I think Michael and I got our wires crossed, so that's why I think some of my work is not here right now, but we kind of covered those steps. So main idea is just starting to work on your homepage is not published. Okay, so that's a good question here. Is that for Jane? So if we went under view pages, let's create a page here. I'll call welcome. I'm going to click save here, but not publish it. So Jane, notice when I first come in here, I've got the option up here at the top where I can say publish it again.
Mm-hmm.
And if I click on view all pages, if I started looking down, I can see which ones have the happy green circle with a white check mark that they're published and which have the sad no symbol, which tell me for whatever reason I've chosen not to publish this one just yet. But if it should be published, I can click right here and just say publish.
Yeah, I see that. I just,
Okay.
on the, when you tried to present the CSU homepage, it was
Yep.
published.
Yeah, I have to see. Yeah, I'll have to see. I think either I typed the wrong URL there, is my guess. And if I go here, and I've got too many other pages open at this point. That one, let's see if I can go back here. If I went back to my modules and homepage, you're right, it's not published. So thank you for pointing that one out. I'm going to edit here. I think I've got the right. Let's see if we can put the. I left out the www update. Now if I click here, this one does not like the idea that I'm trying to open it here in Canvas. And that's a security thing that you'll see more and more web browsers do. So notice when I got there, I'm not sure how intuitive this is to students to know to click up here, but this, if I were testing as the instructor, I would say, okay, that's not working. I'd go back to module 1. I'd go to my home page. It's got an icon of the link showing me that this is an external link. I would do edit. And I would say, yep, I need to load this in a new tab because Canvas is preventing it from loading it right within Canvas. I'll click update. Now I'll click on it. It opens a new tab. I can get to CSU. I would probably just, my own sanity, I'd probably go to student view, back to my modules, and verify can they get to that external web page link that I put in here. And yes, they can. Okay. But that is pretty much what we were going to cover today in terms of all the exercises in building a course. So I see, can you see, I'm seeing a note in the chat that does it look like my screen is frozen? It looks like for other folks it's working. So Heather, I don't know if you might need to come in and out again of Teams or just kind of listen to us chatting here right now. Tomorrow, for folks who signed up, tomorrow we cover assignments and in the gradebook. And then Thursday, our session is on the new quizzes tool. So that's kind of what the rest of the week is looking like from a training point of view. I show it's 11:51. So at this point, I'm going to officially stop recording this class. What I'm happy to do is I'm happy to hang out for another 10 or 15 minutes. If people have any other questions about Canvas that they would like some help with, I'm happy to hang out and chat for a little bit. So I'm going to stop recording.